Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of otherworldly music, looking at songs that make us feel otherworldly, or maybe that the songs came from another plane or world. Could be anything. It's a highly subjective theme, and I'm looking forward to exploring it. Today, we're going to be checking out a Holy Fawn track. This one's called Seer. And yeah, let's see what they're bringing to the table. Let's go. That weird detuned element is making me uneasy, that's for sure. Very slow 6/8. And the only reason I know it's 6/8 is because of the cymbal. It's very quiet, but it's certainly back there. A lot of elements coming together here to create this specific atmosphere that it's a complex one. There's a lot of layers going into this that are creating this specific vibe. Some of it textural, some of it musical. So this is how the song started. Alright, so it looks like we're repeating this loop. I have an A, B, A, B, and the second B is going to be our outro, maybe? And this subtle march to this inevitable noise. It's interesting too that we didn't have the drums prior, and there's a flow to everything, and now that the drums are here just laying down this heavy rigidity, it's kind of removed that element. Interesting that they're only using the left side for that final tone too. It's not coming out the right at all. Okay. So what we have here is a song that has a single idea. And to create a sense of progression through the track, instead of creating multiple ideas that tell a story together, we hear variations on the full idea. And we hear those variations by removing elements. The completed idea with every part present is the final moments of the song, where we have the drums coming in, the textural fuzzy stuff, the guitar, the synths, the vocals, just everything present at one time. Now, we have a couple variations of this, such as the intro to each of the build-ups, which is just the guitar and vocals. We have a couple of variations in the first cycle through where we introduce almost all of it. The only thing missing is the drums, I believe, in the biggest part in the first half of the track. And then we restart and we go back to the opening idea of just the guitar with the vocals and build it up again. But the song exists on a single concept and variations of that. So when we speak about the song and what it's doing technically, there really isn't a lot of variety to what this topic can cover. So And the thing on top of that too is that it isn't necessarily about any specific idea. There are a couple of things I'm going to touch on, but this is a song that's supposed to be understood in the whole rather than each individual aspect. This is a song that is greater than the sum of its parts. If we look at everything individually, there's nothing interesting on that micro level. Nothing that would deem the song to be as much as what it is. But it's when everything comes together that it becomes impactful. When everything works in tandem to create that very specific vibe they're going for. So I think we're going to start small to big right here. We're going to look at some of the smaller ideas and then take a look at what it all means when it comes together and end on the lyrics. So on that micro level, like I said, there's not a lot here to really talk about, but there are a couple of things I want to point out. First of all is the production. There are quite a few elements here that come about through the production, not through what's being played. There are some instruments that are here purely for the melodic element, but there's a lot of stuff going on that's texturally or atmospherically, that's their main reason for being there. One of those is the synthesizers that are way out on the fringe of the sound sphere. They have a double layered job. First of all, they are on the fringe. They provide the boundary for our sound. There is no sound that is further away from the listener than the synth, and that exists everywhere. To me, I hear it more horizontally, but even vertically, I don't hear anything around it, because even still from a pitch aspect, it is one of the higher ranged instruments in the group. It exists to create a sonic boundary to where the music can exist. And as far as I can tell, it also kind of sits at the edge of the sound sphere. I don't feel like the song is narrow or condensed in any way. But it also creates this harmonious texture for everything else to reside within. It is angelic. It is bright. I'm not going to say it's cheerful, but it brings positivity with it. It is a bit of a tainted positivity. Some of that comes from not the notes themselves, but the way they're played. There is some detuning, I think, on it, or it could just be the way that it clashes with the detuned guitar. But it does not sound perfect. It does not sound pristine. There is a grittiness to it. And like I said, I'm not sure if that's part of its own sound or just the way that it plays with other sounds. But it's a complex emotional element that sits at the boundaries of the song, but it is also the brighter element. And this is going to come together later when I talk about the song as a whole and the atmosphere that they're going for, because it is a very important part compared to what's inside of it. The other main thing I want to talk about production-wise is the detuning on the guitar. I'm not sure if this was done if this is done digitally and they took a regular guitar input and just kind of tweaked it down a bit, or if this was something done on the guitar itself. Maybe they detuned every single string. I don't know. Maybe they do detune them all differently, but there's also a warbliness to it, which I'm going to say is digital. That's pretty hard to do acoustically. And that combined with the detuning gives it this ethereal sound, right? It sounds close to being in tune, but it also is obviously not. And there's moments where it sounds like a stable tone, but it has just the faintest warble to it, and you kind of see, oh, it's not. It's kind of sitting between these two worlds of something more harmonious and palatable, and one that focuses more on dissonance and warbliness. I was trying to fit that into a larger theme, and nothing was coming, so we're going to stick with it, just attributing to a warbly idea. And then we have the vocals. And this carries on that ethereal element where it's super wide, super breathy, super airy, and sort of low effort. And, much like when we spoke about, I think it was a Billie Eilish track, actually. Maybe it was, oh no, I don't remember what it was. It was a black metal track, though. When I say low effort, though, it's not that I'm saying that it doesn't take effort to produce the sound, but that the sound created appears low effort. When he's singing, it's just it feels like it's very much in his chest range. There's nothing about it that sounds like it's being forced or that it's in something that is unnatural to even his speaking range. It doesn't feel like it really takes much energy to produce these notes, and the way that he holds the notes out and the breathiness and airiness of it just makes it sound like it's low effort. He's just kind of sitting there in front of a microphone, singing out some notes, and it creates, to me at least, an ethereal element when combined with the way that it's produced. It doesn't sound natural. It sounds like it is spoken word, but there's a melody, there's a cadence to it. It's obviously sung, but it doesn't sound like it's singing. It sounds just like holding out some notes in speech. And then the airiness, the breathiness, the extra width, the reverb give it that supernatural vibe. So all of this comes together to create a sound that is simultaneously one thing, but simultaneously one thing and the opposite. And they all kind of have their own ideas of what they're contrasting. So we take all of these contrasting ideas on the lower level and we bring it up and we look at the whole thing top down and see what's actually being performed when it all comes together. And it is conflicted. It is a variety of things, actually. It's a very complex feeling that they're achieving here. There is beauty to it. There's brightness, there's positivity, there's also elements of confusion or lack of understanding, or I guess both of those just kind of sums that up. But then there's also stuff on the lower end. There are some sort of moody, creepier, negative elements in here, maybe even a little bit of sorrow in the delivery of the vocals. Or not even, maybe regret. I don't know. There's a lot of this though. There is a brightness, there's some positivity, there's some negativity, and there's stuff in the middle that doesn't really know where it stands, and it finds a way to deliver all of these simultaneously and sort of be this amorphous emotional experience through the track. And that doesn't even bring in the idea of the layers. Like the beginning of the song with the lyrics and the detuned guitar have a different combination of emotions than when we bring in the synthesizer or the electric guitar or that fuzzy textural thing, or the end when we bring in the drums and it drastically changes everything. I mentioned that there is this flow in the first half of the song once we start introducing some ideas, and it's kind of going with the flow. There's just this nice little groove. It's a very slow 6/8, and I usually feel 6/8 as more of a flowing movement. This 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6, and it's not very rigid at all to me. It's this flowing thing, right? That's how I tend to feel 6/8. But when we bring the drums in and we have the snare and the bass kick on every single hit, instead of having these emphasized 1 and 4 like I had just had with the 1 2 3 4 5 6 1, you get these nice little pulses to them, especially the way they were utilized here with that large decay, that large width on them. So 1 2 3 4 5 6, and they're like these big moments that kind of help drive the song forward. Instead, you get 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6, and that's the bass kick just coming in all the time, and it is just heavy hitting. It is militaristic. It is a march, and it comes in slowly too, right? the bass kick comes in by itself, just hammering every single beat, and it slowly gets louder, louder, and louder until we bring everything in, which is what we did last time, just sans drums. And this time, though, it feels different. It feels like a march towards the inevitability of these complex emotions, but they're not so complex anymore. The aggression, the abrasion no longer allows, at least for me, some of the more beautiful aspects to shine through. It really drives home the chaotic elements. It drives home the detuning. It drives home some of the more sorrowful or regretful elements. It drives home the mismatching of some of these sounds where they don't necessarily come together. There was definitely a disjointed element the first time we hit this section, but the flowing of the rhythm just kind of made me jive with it, right? It's like, okay, it's not perfectly harmonious, but it's fine. It's a vibe, right? We're feeling a lot of different things here and we're just going to go with the flow, but you bring this drum in and it really emphasizes the abrasiveness of it, which emphasizes the more chaotic and disjointed elements. It brings those to the surface and it no longer feels like a complex emotion. It feels like all the negative aspects of what we just explored. It leads to an ending where it feels difficult to see the brightness that we once did. And that's bizarre, right? How can one instrument have that much power? But a lot of it I do think also has to do with the production of it. I think if I went back and listened, one of the things I would pay attention to is how the things were mixed at the end versus in the middle. I do wonder if some of the brighter sections, like the electric guitar and the synthesizer strings on the outside, if they're as loud as they were. Maybe the drums are drowning them out. Maybe they did get kicked down a notch in the volume so they're not as present. I don't know. What I do know is how I felt though. And for the one instrument to be the major difference there, we've added in these drums emphasizing every downbeat with this harsh attack. It changed everything for me. It completely forced me to reevaluate the way that I heard this same section. And that's just, that shows the power of good songwriting and good production as well. I'm going to dive into the lyrics here and see if I can't figure out how any of this might relate back to that. Peculiar. So, I'm going to be honest, there's some metaphor in here that's going over my head. The song is called Seer. And if I'm not mistaken, a seer is sort of a mystic kind of person in a community. They usually do divination and stuff like that. Seeing the future, or I guess even in modern days, we could relate the people who speak to the dead, or read your palm and stuff like that. Fortune tellers. That they could be a type of modern day seer, or what the seer has become in a modern day time. I think it's a bit of a loose translation, but I think it's the closest thing we might have in modern culture. I'm sure there are some places that still have seers or mystics, but at least in the Western world, I think that would be the closest analogy. But it says, "I am lost. I got turned around. Can you tell I'm not from this land? I want to taste all the trees in you." What does that even mean? Like, there's sometimes I read some metaphors, I'm like, I kind of get what they're alluding to, but maybe like the meat of it is going over my head, but I've got nothing here. I want to taste all the trees in you. Like, it could be a way of saying, like, I want to learn about this land. I want to explore all the nature, but it is just a weird way of saying it, especially saying in you. Assuming that they are speaking to someone of the land and not something, or speaking to this land itself. I mean, suppose it could be speaking to the planet. It's an interesting way of saying that, though. That says, "Keep me around, I'll be something worthwhile. Keep me taut, educated, and I'll chew through the knots, which is interesting because that seems to be a play on word on TAUT taught about keeping knots tight. But it almost seems to equate education with being locked down. And if you teach this person, then they'll get through the barrier, get through their chains, which seems to be against the previous statement of if you keep me around, I'll be worthwhile. He says, I'll chew through the knots, make you rethink the day that you found me. And then repeats, I'm just lost. I just, bringing in the idea of a seer, maybe it's somebody who's having a vision, right? And seeing, spiritually visiting another land, another world. But I don't know, it's all over the place. And then the chorus says, how come you're so far away with streams down your face? What made you this way? Can't you escape? And I'm completely lost there. I mean, it could be tying into this idea of spiritually connecting with a different place, and maybe they are someone speaking to them where they're physically located, and they're crying because of what they're seeing spiritually in the other land. I don't know. The bridge says burn me down repeatedly, and the outro puts words between this. It says listen, and then in the background something that says burn me down. The moon sings soft, burn me down. Cold breathing, burn me down. Whispering, burn me down. Yeah, it is kind of wrapped all around in metaphor. But there's definitely this element of conflicting ideas here. It is sort of all over the place, and it kind of borrows this idea of, I mean, we can tie this back to a lot of what I just said, actually. The conflicting elements, having all these different emotions fits here because we are both here and not here, or the seer is here and not here. They are physically present in this plane and spiritually visiting another land. And this duality can be seen in a lot of the instruments. I'd said that a lot of them are exhibiting simultaneous yet conflicting styles of music or emotions. And it is something that could simultaneously but conflicting be happening. It's a weird way to say that. But being physically present but spiritually gone is a way of being here but not here, which sounds contradictory. And then we have all these conflicting emotions, which could have something to do with having your mind in two places, or your body in one and your mind in another, and how they might be in conflict. He says, keep me around, I'll be worthwhile. But also, if you keep me around, you might rethink the day that you found me. And there seems to be some antagonizing element there, but not one sentence later, a repetition of I'm just lost, moving into how come you're far away? Why are you crying? Can't you escape? So there's definitely a lot of emotional elements here. And of course, that's followed by burn me down. Like, that is so far divorced from, I might be a burden, I might be a nuisance, I might be a godsend for you. Also, I'm crying and you should kill me. It's really all over the place, but I think it works fairly well with the sound that they're going for, right? It's a sound that is exhibiting a lot of complex emotions, is a lot of complex and multi-layered ideas going on. It is simultaneously doing one thing and doing another pretty much throughout the entire track, and there is this ethereal element to it, especially with the vocals, that could be the spiritual aspect of this divination of crossing over to this place that you do not belong, that you're not from. Um, but man, I feel like I'm grasping a little bit at all of this because so much of this goes over my head. I am quite a bit lost with these. Why can't lyrics be like music? Music, I feel like, is easy to understand. Music is a language I get. Oh man. But anyways, those are my thoughts on Holy Fawn's Seer. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this one. If you enjoyed it or not, anything that stood out to you, anything that I touched on you felt should be extrapolated upon. And if you have any insight into these verses, into these lyrics, let me know. They're some complex writing right there. It's kind of enthralling though. There's some really interesting pictures being painted with the words. They're just, I can't see the picture for the brushstrokes. Um, Anyways, when you're done commenting, head up to the description box and there's a link for Linktree. It'll take you to this menu right here. You can join the Patreon and vote on future themes and songs. You can follow me on Twitter, join the Discord community, pick up some merch, submit a special selection. There's just a ton of stuff. Go ahead and check it out. Above the description box, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. We have one more video that came out a minute and a half ago. It's our special selection for today. We're going to be looking at a band called Silent Planet, which sounds familiar. I got to look that up real quick and see if we've done them before. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.